which is precious few of you. This is another one of our regularly unscheduled live streams. Regularly unscheduled because there is absolutely no schedule to them or rhyme or reason about when I possibly do them, which is completely unfair to those people who enjoy interacting with the other people who interact on the channel. I am not so arrogant as to think anyone really comes here for me, but I do know, hey, Buck99, I do know that many of you enjoy interacting with each other, and this is a forum for you to do it. So I apologize for being so sporadic. The truth of the matter is I have to wait for certain periods of time before I come up with new things to talk about, because I'm just not interesting enough to do this every week. Like, I have no idea how Rush Limbaugh did it. 3 hours a day, every day. Yeah, he had some help, but still very, very, very impressive. Okay. So our topic of conversation this evening is, I don't really have a topic of conversation this evening. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. Jeez. Well, that was a lot of work for nothing. Our topic of conversation this evening is my son is joining the Marines. I am so excited. I am so proud. I am so giddily happy. But the question is, should we still be joining the military at this late stage in the Republic's life? I believe, come on. Obviously, I believe the answer is yes, because I'm excited that my son is joining. But I'm wondering if some of you have a different take on that. If Palmetto Paratrooper joins the chat, I imagine he will have a very different take on that. Oh. Hey, Dean. Hey, Les. Oh, Buck has a 10-year studying things about Solana. I got to grab another pack of matches real quick because I completely... Oh, wait, is there another one in here? Oh, there's one more. It's not going to work, but... This son, by the way, is having an engagement party tomorrow. He's getting married. And he bought me a humidor. I have a real humidor. Look at this. It even has a little hydrometer in there. I don't know if you can see, but my cigars are hydrated, humidified. So this boy is at the top of the list right now. Joining the Marines, getting married, buying me a humidor. Yeah, them other mudsuckers better step up their game, because right now this young man, he's getting the entire inheritance. He's inheriting all this. He might not want it. Look at this. I insulated the ceiling on my porch because this is supposed to be a living space, because I turned our living room into a bedroom. And I've got to try to figure out how to keep it warm in here during the winter, and so it can be comfortable enough for us to use. It actually is working. But my little parlor stove, my little wood stove there, isn't quite big enough for the space right now. If I finish insulating, though, I'm thinking it's gonna, gonna do okay. All right, I already missed some chats. What's going on here? I can't see the chat. Oh, well. Huh. I wonder why not. Let me get it up on the computer. Yeah. Hey, Patrick. Yeah, you can't light a cigar and talk at the same time. You can't even really smoke a cigar and talk at the same time. Although this this humidor has kind of changed my smoking experience. Humidified cigars are a completely different thing than an unhumidified cigar. And for, well, years now, I've just been leaving them out on the counter. And, they're good for a few days, but I buy packs of 20. And so, the last 15 are just garbage. Maybe I don't need to have the chat up. But anywho, here's my thought process on joining the military right now. Oh, good. Kim Kardashian finally reveals her bar exam result. So, my two oldest sons actually came of age during the Biden, we'll call it a presidency, just for argument's sake. And the COVID, vaccines were required, and so I asked them, look. Oh, thank you, Don. Yeah, it's coming up. I encourage them to not join the military at that point because, yeah, and I still think that was the right choice. The COVID shot was evil. So they didn't join when they first turned 18. So my oldest son is 25 now. And then my second son, the one who's actually joining, is 21. These are my second and sixth children, depending on how you count. We might be losing less. So back then, I didn't want them to join. But now, I think now's the perfect time. We've got great, fantastic leadership. We've got the best leadership we've had in decades. I served under the Clintons, which was, at the time, we thought was just terrible. Terrible. I did 1 year under George W. Bush, too, when I got recalled after September 11th. So I did 5 years, 4 under Clinton, 1 under W. W was way better than Clinton. But with Hegseth right now, in that speech he and Trump gave to the generals and the admirals, I was just cheering. That was a fantastic speech. He was just all like, if we got to fight, we're gonna fight to kill, which is the exact right attitude. If something's worth fighting over, then you gotta go in there and do the fight. But the reason why I think it's so important to join the military, if we can, is because if the sane men of this country are the warrior class, then we are dangerous and we have to be at least dealt with. They can't just ignore us. If we know how their military works, if we know how their weapons work, if we know where their secrets are, if they've had to train us and have made us comfortable with violence and with skills martial, then they at least have to think twice about trampling on our rights, especially when our sons follow us up in the military. My grandfather served, my father served, I served, my son served. Actually, one of my daughters has served too, in the Air Force. Uh, that's they at least have to look at every generation and say, hey, there is a connection between these people. Can I send the son against the father? You know, uh, when you have that experience, when you have that knowledge and that training, and then someone with a deep personal connection to you is there doing it now, that is formidable. That is a formidable, at least deterrent, even if it's not an absolute palladium. It is at least a deterrent. So, in my opinion, that is the biggest reason why our son should go in the military. They become the best protectors of our freedoms, and that established legacy of, hey, these conservative, right thinking, blue collar, patriotic men are the ones who not only have protected us and are protecting us, but have the training and have the skill set, and they have to at least be uh, there's a word I'm not coming up with. I hate getting old. Uh, Not coddled, but well, let's just say considered. They at least have to consider us when we are the warrior class. Uh, and then, of course, just what a great way to get the training. Like uh, I would have never gotten around to being a decent marksman. Though I'm a decent rifleman. I'm not a great rifleman. I'm a decent rifleman. I got that training in the military. I probably would have never gotten that if it weren't for that military training. And then, of course, I got all the travel and all of it. It's a wonderful thing for a young man. But obviously, the question we've had to ask in the last few years is if we can we make the compromises? Can we not even can we could we have died for the country under the leadership we've had, but could we kill for the country under the leadership we had? Because like violence is sacred, right? Men are made in the image of God. If you're going to strike at the image of God, that is a religious act. If anytime you're interacting with God, it's a religious act. It's a sacred act. So if you strike at God's image, if you engage in violence against your fellow man, you're engaging in a sacred act. And hey, Auntie, is that a mushroom cloud? Uh, uh, and when it was Biden, could I ask my sons to kill, perform this sacred act uh, on behalf of the evilness that was in our government? And look, let's not let us not uh, 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 deceive ourselves here. There is still a lot of evil in our government. Our government is by no means reformed. Uh, I'm as prone to hero worship as the next man. I'm all on the Trump train. But this is not a man who shares you know my definition of righteousness. This is Trump is the first president who was ever elected believing in gay marriage, right? His boy. But every time I say things like that, man, I just got to stop and think. But everything he does works out better than anyone's ever worked out in my entire lifetime, right? Like I was born in 1975. So was Nixon still in office in 75 or was it Gerald Ford? I can't remember when Nixon actually resigned. I think it was like 73 or 74. I bet someone in the chat can look that up for us. So, I think I was born when Gerald Ford was president, who was no one's conservative. Decent man, nothing wrong with him. Les was in high school in 75. Who was president in 1975, Les? I'm pretty sure it was Gerald Ford. Look, Ford was a decent man, but he was no one's conservative. Jimmy Carter was raging idiot. Even though he is from my beloved home state of Georgia, he is everything that is wrong with my beloved home state of Georgia. Reagan was good, but yeah, less was good, but he wasn't great. He fought communism. He got the big question right, but he got a lot of other things wrong. You know, amnesty for illegal immigration. He was not good on guns. He was a free trader. Uh, what else? Uh, yeah, wasn't great on abortion. Reagan was okay, but he was by no means uh, Barry Goldwater, although he got accused of being Barry Goldwater. Uh, was no fault divorce under Reagan, Bear Claw? I did not realize that. That is way later than I thought it was. Yeah, he did the '86 machine gun ban. Uh, I will say this about Reagan. I will give him this. He made any compromise he had to make in order to fight communism. He had a great moral clarity about the evils of communism, uh, and I will give him that. Unfortunately, he was willing 2.26. I bet that's million civilian government employees as of last year. Uh, he made too many compromises with socialism inside the country in order to fight communism outside the country. But but if you were alive back then, and I was just barely cognizant, I remember Reagan's second inauguration really, really well. Uh, so yeah, I was born in '75. I think it was '85 when he was inaugurated the second time. I remember having nuclear bomb drills. And my elementary school had a sign on it was a nuclear fallout shelter. It had a sign on the side, with the arrow and you pointing to nuclear fallout shelter. Uh, it was a different time. Uh, that doesn't excuse Reagan for his failures, but it does put them in context. That Reagan was not malicious. Reagan was not trying to undermine anything. He was just from a very very specific time period. From the '50s up through the '80s was a golden age. The cracks had started forming. The rot had started spreading, but from the outside, everything looked great. And if you came of age in the '50s and lived through the '50s and '60s and '70s into the '80s, man, you thought the world was just on this meteoric rise straight up because you came out of World War II and all that degradation, and you just start seeing technological innovation and wealth pouring out of every corner and progress and diseases getting cured and we're going to the moon and all this stuff. Uh, that was a time when the phrase "better living through chemistry" wasn't a joke. It was like, wow, our lives are getting. Well, of course, I mean, they didn't know that. Yeah, all this crap is killing you in the long run. But in the moment when it all first hit, man, it looked like this explosion of wealth, this explosion of quality of life and standard of living, and it was just unbelievable to those people. Remember, they went into the '30s, uh, in the Great Depression and everything, and there was hardly electricity anywhere in the country. I mean, there was electricity, but it was really really concentrated. The first electricity that was run in my county, where I live now, was in 1902, but it was temporary. They were just building a railroad trestle, so they had electricity at the work site, uh, and then it went away. And I think it wasn't until the '20s until there was any electricity in the county again after that. And it was only in anyway. Yeah, we're talking about 1920s. So if you come of age in the '50s, you were most likely born in an era without electricity. You didn't have electricity when you were born. Um, And then suddenly it's 1950 and you're Ronald Reagan and you're a movie star and the rest of your life is this linear progression to the presidency. You know what? You can be forgiven for thinking, wow, this is all working great. This all looks amazing. Because, you know, from where he's sitting, it does look amazing. Uh, so I cut Reagan a little bit of slack, but that might just be nostalgia. Shalom, Landon. How you doing? Uh, because I really did have hero worship for Reagan when I was younger, uh, especially in the Clinton years. You know, in the Clinton years, we looked back on Reagan like just this pinnacle of American achievement. And then Reagan coming out of the Carter years. The Carter years were bad. I did not know that either, Bear Claw. Wow, Reagan banned open carry in California as governor. Huh. Yeah, Marx is talking about the same thing. Born in 63, spent most days growing up wondering when the nukes were going to fall. Uh, I remember sitting in the library at school poring over Jane's Encyclopedia of Military Weapons with my buddies and my brother and trying to figure out whose military was stronger. You know, comparing America now, that's kind of a boy thing, but it was a real thing, you know, because we had these Jane's Encyclopedia of tanks, the Jane's Encyclopedia of I remember tanks and planes specifically, and we were seriously sitting there thinking, okay, if we went to war with Russia, could we win? Who has the better weapons? Uh, and at the time prior to 88, 89, when the wall fell, or probably even 86, I think it started becoming really clear that the Soviet Union was a paper tiger, but probably a duck and cover. Prior to 86 there was a real question about whether or not the Soviet Union was competitive. You know, there was the thought that maybe they could actually, you know, compete with us in the military realm. Of course, now we know today that that was a complete and total fiction on every level. But we didn't know that at the time. the The Iron Curtain was still up. The Iron Curtain was a real thing, and there was no internet yet. Even that's the other thing, you know, young people don't understand. Information just didn't flow like it does now. You did not know what was going on in the Soviet Union. You had no access to it. Uh, because the only way information got anywhere was by these really infrastructure heavy industries like newspapers and radio and TV. And you know, if you took a picture, you had to send the picture in to get it developed. Uh, you wouldn't get your pictures back for a week sometimes. Yeah, I think it would be like well, I remember there being the 24-hour photo booth, and it was a big deal that you could get your pictures back in 24 hours. Like, so that was an innovation that was out there. You could go take your pictures, go get your pictures developed, and get them back in 24 hours, and that was a big deal. Uh, but there was none of this. Take a picture, and 30 minutes later, it's around the world. It just wasn't feasible. Uh, yeah, we wanted to know what types of weapons would be shooting at us because most of our fathers lived during the draft. The draft ended in, see, my dad enlisted, I think, in 69. And I think the draft had just ended sometime in the mid to late 60s. I don't remember for sure. Uh, but my dad wasn't drafted, my dad enlisted. And I think he told me that the draft was over when he enlisted, but there were still a bunch of drafted guys in. Uh, Buddy Bear's here. He says draft ended in 72. I was completely wrong on that. Uh, so, very different era. You really didn't know that the Soviet Union wasn't a superpower that didn't have parity with the United States. All we knew was, Brezhnev at the UN pounding the lectern with his shoe. We will bury you. We will bury you. We will bury. It sounds stupid now, but At the time, you know, seemed plausible. Less volunteered. Seemed plausible, you know. Uh, Buddy Bear, I wonder how ubiquitous the draft was in '72. Uh, oh, Don got to see the fence between East and West Germany in '84. It was with the Second Armored Division. Uh, but yeah, so you know, you cut people a little bit of slack. I cut some people a little bit of slack in the '80s if they were standing up to communism. I can at least say, well, you got the biggest thing right, or what felt like the biggest thing right. I don't think it was the biggest thing now looking back, but damn, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. Because communism had, look, in the post war era, communism had kind of gone from victory onto victory onto victory. Uh, wow. Buddy Bear watched a hockey game in Germany in '78, leaning against the Berlin Wall. Huh, that's cool. But yeah, we coming out of World War II, the Soviet Union takes over the entire Eastern Europe, European bloc, all the way up to and past Berlin. You know, Poland's behind the wall, Iron Curtain, half of Germany, the bigger half of Germany, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, all that stuff. They were making the commies were making a run at Spain, and they were making a run at Italy, and they made a serious run at Greece. They were just barely stopped in Greece. And then they turn to Asia, and China goes communist. That happens after the war. I can't remember. I think it was '49 when the Republican Chinese forces have to unask the continent and go to Taiwan. Uh, Luke B is working on his 302 XLT. What is a 302 XLT? I'm going to assume that is a F-150 with a 302. Tell me if I am correct or not, Luke. That's my guess. A 302 XLT is going to be an F-150 XLT trim package with the 5.0. Tell me if I'm right. Yep, got it. Aha. Uh, oh yeah, let's look. We got it. We got around to New York. How about that? Anyway, China and Russia, they pull the that stunt in Korea, and then they don't really lose there. They think they win. A '94 F-150 XLT 5.0, very cool truck. Uh, and then Vietnam happens, uh, and that takes us into '72. I think the Paris Accord was '72. But then after Watergate and Nixon resigns, North Vietnam reinvades South Vietnam, and South Vietnam then falls. And it had been, from 1945 to 1972, 73. I think 74 is when the South fell. 75. Yeah, it had been 30 years of communists not losing. Communism hadn't lost for 30 years. It had slowly been advancing. And it's in South America, and we got the Contras and the Sandinistas and all that foolishness. So for people to have been focused laser like on communism was not crazy. I would even say it was reasonable. I remember being focused laser like on communism even at my young age at the time. Uh, so yeah, I cut Reagan a little bit of slack. I oh what to do with with that man. What the hell was going on there? Uh, I don't know. Why was he a? I don't get it. Surely he would have been much better off as a Democrat. We all would have been much better off if he'd been a Democrat. At least he'd have been honest about it. Um, and of course, Clinton was one of the most evil presidents we'd ever had up until Obama. Uh, and I still don't think Biden was evil. I think Biden's just here's what I think about Biden. I think he was a low IQ swinger. I think everything you need to know about Biden is is summed up in those two traits. He wasn't very smart, and he was a swinger. Uh, he might as well have had one of those male signal symbol, necklaces the idiots wore back in the 70s, because that's exactly who he was. And of course, Obama was evil. But we thought we were defeating communism, and here we are with an essentially admitted communist as the mayor of our biggest and one of our most important cities, possibly one of our most important cities. I don't know if that is really true anymore, but it's certainly up there. And suddenly we have essentially admitted communist Muslim immigrant in charge of New York City. How does this happen? You know what? Let's look up the vote totals, because I never actually saw the vote totals. Yeah, it's just out in the open now. They're proud of it now. Let's look up. Oh, woke reelected Minnesota mayor faces backlash after giving victory speech in a foreign language. Let's read this story real quick. This is a man who just doesn't care. All right. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey faced backlash for speaking in a foreign language during his victory speech after winning re-election. Frey, 44, won his third term as mayor over the nearly 430,000 strong Midwestern city on Tuesday, and during his victory speech, the Democrat spoke in Somali for parts of it. I wonder why Jacob Frey was speaking in Somali. Around 25,000 Minneapolis residents hail from Somalia, a population that Frey has spent a large amount of time bonding with. He actually beat out a Somali American, Omar Fatah, who was a Democrat socialist in the race. So, the commies lost one race at least. While celebrating his win, he spoke in the language, leading chants with the crowd. No matter where you are from, Minneapolis should be a place where you are proud to call home, he said in English. Minneapolis is a place where you come to seek prosperity, where you come to raise your family. And here's what this election means. This election means this is a moment for unity, where the entire Somali community can come together and say, this is our people, this is our city, we are united behind each other. Okay, well, we don't care about this guy. Let's look for NYC mayoral race results. I just lost my light. See if we can find the vote totals here. Yada yada. I should have asked you, one of you guys in the chat, to do this instead of me trying to do it. Race. Because I want to see the polling early on was that Mondami wasn't actually even going to win a majority of the votes. Okay, more than 2 million New Yorkers voted, the most since 1969. Uh, that saw John Lindsay sort of City Hall. $1.7 million. Come on, just tell me who voted for who. They're not going to tell me. They don't want to tell me. Uh, so the polling I saw right before the race uh, was that Mondami wasn't going to win the majority of the votes. That more people voted against Mondami than voted for him, but they were split between uh, Cuomo and Sliwa, or whatever the hell his name is. Now I didn't see that. That was going into the race the day before, uh, and I don't know what the actual end result was. But if that's the result, if if the jihadi commie couldn't win a majority of votes in New York City, that's actually encouraging to me because, uh, if there's anywhere where that should go right now, it's New York City, and you would think that there would be a majority in New York City for that. So if there was not a majority, that's encouraging. The problem is no one, no one had the moral fortitude to get that Sliwa guy out of the race. Look, I've voted. I don't like to consider myself a Republican, but I have voted Republican for most of my life because they've been the closest to my belief system. But I'm sorry when the opponent is the jihadi socialist commie, you got to put party aside. Sliwa is a very old man. He shouldn't have been running anyway. To be honest with you, good guy, like him a lot. But he had no hope of winning that race, and him stepping aside would have given us a shot to not have Mondami in that race. Because let me tell you what happens now. Let's see if I can get this light back on real quick. There is nobody who is better at graft and corruption than communists. They are amazing at it. Yeah, that battery's dead too. We'll let it last as long as it lasts, and then I'll go get another one. And the first thing he's going to start doing is pushing his buddies into places where they don't belong, where they can help keep him in power. There's a reason why Sadiq Khan has stayed in power in London for as long as he has, because he got in, he took control of the reins of power, and you will not get him out of that without dynamite now. Uh, and he will most likely pass the mayoralty. I think that's how you pronounce that, of London on to whoever his chosen successor is one day. Same thing with Mondami. He's going to get in there and he's going to start replacing people, getting and just do a total changeover of uh, the bureaucracy and all the little idiot functionaries who can actually control things behind the scenes, and it's going to be it's going to be a done deal. It's just like, look, the the Irish did it in Boston. Nothing against the Irish, but they did the exact same damn thing in Boston. The Italians had pulled it off in New York for a long time, and now there's been a changeover. It's gone the other way. Uh, so yeah, there really is a beachhead there in New York City. Uh, and it's easy to say, oh, it's New York City. Who cares? Screw them. No big deal. Uh, but it is a big deal. A lot of the nation's uh, elites and opinion makers and decision makers come through that state. A lot of the money, a lot of the influence. Now, sure, yeah, a lot of it is going to flee out. I saw a meme yesterday or recently that was thanking Mondami for being the best real estate agent Florida ever had, because all the people who allegedly are moving out of New York City now. Um, but we can't just write off New York City, just like we shouldn't write off California, you know? Yeah, I hear Wisconsin is getting bad too. I am hopeful that Wisconsin is salvageable, though. Because, like, the difference between Wisconsin and New York is that New York City is so massive that there's no way to counteract it. And I think in Wisconsin, there's still the possibility of counteracting uh, whatever city that is. I don't know if it's Green Bay or whatever. I was like here in Georgia, you know, so we got kind of a similar thing with Atlanta, where Atlanta is really, really big compared to the rest of the state, but it's not big enough to overwhelm the whole state yet. It is. Uh, Whoa, Bodie Bear processed 175 fryers today. I will give you a holler. You were supposed to tell me when that was happening, Buddy Bear, and I was going to come out. I dropped the ball on that. Buddy Bear's been trying to get me to come see his chicken butchering operation for years, and I keep wanting to do it and just keep never getting around to it. Of course, he does it on Saturdays, and I tend to not travel on Saturday because I'm a Sabbath keeper. And Buddy Bear is close to me, but he's like kind of right there on the edge of where it might be a journey, it might not. You know, I definitely don't do commerce on Sabbath, so you know, it's like I gotta buy. Oh, Buddy Bear, I got an idea I want to run past you about how to save the state of Georgia. We'll have to talk about it. I think we need to. Oh, look, Jimmy Kimmel's wife is angry all the time after Trump. Please. That woman was angry all the time, but long before that, it's just she was angry at her husband all the time, and now she gets to be angry at Trump all the time. But yeah, we need to start a coalition of rural counties who are going to cut off the water supply to Atlanta. I think if we do it, we save the state. Anywho, you might be gone already. We got to talk about it. I think it should be the political project of the entire state should be. Some days the mailbox is a journey. Nice, Les. Uh, but yeah, restricting the growth of all of our urban areas is probably got to be the political project of every state. Because I don't even think the urban areas are all that liberal, but it's just the liberals are able to grab control of the levers of power in those areas and just cheat. Just cheat. It's liberals. It's liberals, 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 liberals. I'm gonna sound like a, you know, Jan from the Brady. Marsha, 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 Marsha. Well, liberals, 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 liberals. They're awful. And what's crazy is that leftists hate them too. This is one of my favorite parts about the left. The left despises each other. Oh, they hate each other so bad. Communists, socialists, far leftists, they actually think they call them the liberal reformers. They think liberal reformers are the bigger threat to them than the so-called fascists or reactionaries. Because they think the liberal reformers can mollify the proletariat enough to keep them from revolting. So they think liberal reformers will just keep trickling out little tiny concessions here and there, just enough to keep the masses from revolting and putting the communists in charge. And so the leftists hate the libs. And the libs, they're all butthurt because they're like, well, we're really liberal and we're of the left, and the left is like, no, you're terrible bourgeoisie. we're just waiting for you to take over so we can take over you, you know, because that's what the leftists are always, this tiny little minority that are just batshit insane. They're nuts. And they're incompetent assholes. They can't do anything. Lenin was a moron. Lenin was an absolute moron. The only thing Lenin was good at was killing people, his people. Um, Lenin missed every stage of the Russian Revolution. Missed every single stage. Every time it happened, Lenin was like, "No, it's not happening yet, and we're not going to get involved. We're going to hold back." And the only reason Lenin was even in Russia in order to take advantage was because the Germans had snuck him back. He was living in Switzerland or Sweden. I think it's Switzerland. He was living in Switzerland through World War One, and the Germans snuck him back into Russia just to try to destabilize. Uh, the revolution, I think, had already happened. So the Tsar had already been deposed. But the liberal reformers were in charge, the so-called White Russians. I can't remember the name of the guy. He was like a noble, but he was kind of in charge. And there was still like, oh, we might bring the Tsar back in some sort of constitutional monarchy. This was the liberal reformers. And Lenin shows back up, and he just keeps missing it and missing it and missing it and missing it. And finally, these women get so angry because there's no food that these women riot. And Lenin, like the day before, had been like, "Don't get involved. Time isn't right yet. We're gonna." And the next thing you know, these women riot, and it works. Uh, and then these sailors. Anyway, it gets ridiculous. I don't remember all the details now, but Lenin just like trips into this thing. They're idiots. They're the idiot second sons of the petty bourgeoisie who are just trying to steal their inheritance early by some kind of faked solidarity with their father's employees, uh, and they're morons. And the only time they can make it work is when there's major crises of different varieties. So, like in the Russian Revolution, it's World War One. You know, no World War One, no Russian Revolution. The French Revolution is a major famine, a major economic collapse. I shouldn't say a major famine, a famine with a major economic collapse, uh, and a fiscal crisis brought on by the American Revolution. Because the French spent so much money supporting the American Revolution that then their finances fell apart right after. I remember we stopped fighting uh, the British. And what year was that? The war starts in '76. I think it takes 7 years. So, like 1783, the war is over. 1789, France collapses. uh, partially, maybe partially because of debt taken on supporting the American Revolution. Uh, so anyway, but that's the only way leftists, real leftists ever come into power. Now there's the fake left. Actually, all leftists are fake leftists, but uh, you know, there's the Maduros and the Chavezes and the Castros, who are just straight up autocratic morons. They can come into power through other means. But true leftists, commies, socialists, the Lenins, the Robespierres, these idiots, they have to just have external chaos and conflict, and they have to have the liberal reformers do the main work for them. Just like French Revolution, same thing. When the French Revolution first happens, it's liberal reformers who take over, and they keep the king, and they want to have a constitutional monarchy, and the big change they make is they change the name of the country from the they make some change where the king is no longer the king of France. Oh yeah, that's right. They changed the king's title from the king of France to the king of the French, I mean, that's their big reform. You know, they do other things too, but like, but that's the big deal. The king no longer owns the country. He's just the main executive and representative of the people. Um, and they try to make him like a president for life. Already, uh, if he could have kept his head down for a few years, he might have weathered that whole thing. Yeah. But anywho, so yeah, no, like Mondami isn't the end of the world. He doesn't signal the end of America. But boy, it is a threat. You know, it is a threat. He is there in a very real position of power and influence where he can sway other things his direction, where he can install functionaries and bureaucrats and administrative idiots who all, you know, who all have just major power to wreck people's lives. Uh, I wish I could have found those vote totals, but it's too hard to do while I'm online here. All right, what we got going on in the chat? Let's go back up. Okay, Mark Beasley's. I'm interested to see where this goes with Mammy Dammy. You know, there's a version of this where he just fails so spectacularly uh, that it redounds to our benefit because he discredits these. Not that these ideas should need discrediting. Why do we have to keep fighting the same battles year after year after year after year after year? It is so insane to me that no one ever learns. No one just looks at Cuba and goes, that place is a failed shithole. No one looks at Venezuela and says, this place used to be the jewel of South America. I went to Venezuela in damn it, I talk too much. All right, y'all stick with me for 1 second. I'm gonna grab a new battery for the light because this one's about to go out, and I'm gonna grab some matches. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. We'll talk about Venezuela. I went to Venezuela in 1995. Uh, I was a young man. I was about 18, 19. Jimmy Kimmel's wife is angry all the time after losing relationships with Trump voting family. Oh, we got to read this stupidity because this bitch. Listen to this headline. Jimmy Kimmel's wife is angry all the time, quote, after losing relationships with Trump voting family members. Now, what happened? You all know exactly what happened. Who cut who off in this relationship, right? Did the Trump voting family members cut her off, or did she cut off her Trump voting family members? But she's the victim. She's angry all the time. Let's read this and just see. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel's wife, television writer Molly McNerney, revealed that she has lost relationships with some of her Trump voting family members on the We Can Do Hard Things podcast on Thursday. Well, that sounds like a really stupid podcast. We can do hard things. Does that just not sound like it's a first grade teacher scolding her students? We can do hard things. Yeah, people, I hate these people. Following her husband's spat with President Donald Trump over his show being temporarily suspended in September, McNerney told the podcast host that she felt betrayed after some of her family members voted for the current president. Yep. She cut off her family members, and now she's claiming she's the victim. I'm so hurt because I won't have anything to do with these people who disagree with me. How dare they disagree with me? How dare they put me in this position where I have to cut them out of my life or deal with the fact that someone thinks I'm mistaken? These people. Disney briefly suspended ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live after the host remarks about the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. His insane remarks where he said the transgendered loving furry socialist was MAGA. I mean, it's just crazy on its face. Like, there is nothing about that sentence that was true. every word in what he said was false. After an about face from Disney, the liberal comedian returned the following week. It hurts me so much because of the personal relationship I now have where my husband is out there fighting this man. And to me, them voting for Trump is them not voting for my husband and me and our family. And I unfortunately have kind of lost relationships with people in my family because of it. What a stupid, stupid, stupid woman. This is why women should not have the right to vote. I hope Sharon is not listening because, ugh, it hurts me so much because of the personal relationship I now have where listen, this bitch probably describes herself as a feminist, right? Oh, this feminist. Now, by the way, I I do not I hate feminism. What I'm about to make fun of is her hypocrisy, not her actual actions, because I think it's wonderful when a wife supports her husband and takes his side, especially against her family, right? I mean, this is actually a good thing. But look at the hypocrisy of this lunatic bitch who's like, "How dare you, hurt my husband and my family, and I will cut you out of my life because you voted for someone who I don't like." Uh, but if some woman came to her and said, "Oh, my husband's pro-life and I'm pro-choice," she'd be like, "Divorce the bastard, slay queen, you go girl." But when it's her, no, stand by your man. Old Hillary Clinton there, you know. Damn Michelle Obama. Doesn't matter how many old white guys Barack is having sex with in the background. She's gonna be the loyal wife all the time while, excoriating other women for being loyal wives. And to repeat, I'm all for women being loyal wives, but I hate the hypocrisy of these sons of Sharon is here. I figured you were, Sharon. The hypocrisy of these allegedly feminist dingbats, because these women are dingbats. I'm an idiot. Mike Obama. Who will live their lives like good little traditional housewives, but try to convince every other woman in the world to be a street tramp. Why? Why? I don't know why. I don't get it. But they'll do it. These liberal elites, they'll be married. Mondami, he's married. They'll be faithful. They'll start families. They'll raise children. They'll buy houses. They'll save money. They'll live within their means. These people will live private lives that are responsible and well thought out and productive, and then publicly they will try to encourage everyone else to be as self-destructive and immoral as possible. It is insane to me how these people treat everyone else. The hypocrisy, the destructive, evil hypocrisy of living your life the right way, a version of the right way, of a version of a life that will redound to your benefit because you're being responsible, because you're being productive, but you're trying to get everyone else to just destroy themselves in the most immoral, terrible ways possible. It is the evil, the utter evilness of giving poor people massive amounts of food stamps with which to buy every bit of junk in the world. Look, when Mariah and I first got married, we were on food stamps. We were as broke as bicycles. You would not believe how poor we were. Poor because we had made remarkably bad decisions as individuals, and then two very, very broken, individuals got married, and the situation didn't improve right away. You know, it was a compounded problem of two very broken situations. Now it started improving immediately, but when we first got married, we were on food stamps and we lived in government housing, and it was a long, hard slog. And you know, one of my proudest accomplishments of my life is when we were able to cancel our food stamps. And We moved out of government housing first. We did that pretty early, and then we were able to cancel our food stamps at a certain point. So I am not denigrating people on food stamps. I am denigrating the system, though. It is an evil system. I've seen it firsthand. I've been in it. I've been enmeshed in it, and they will give you just hundreds of dollars a month, and then you'll let you buy crazy stuff with it, crazy stuff with it. And then you get diabetes, you get fat, you get sick because you're poor. The only thing you've got all this food stamp money, and it's like, oh well, we're bored, we're poor, we've got nothing. Let's go get some treats at Walmart, and next thing you know, everyone's eating ice cream and all this stuff, and everyone's fat and diabetic, and their feet are rotting off, and then we're like, well, we got to give you health care now. That is that is insane. That is not insane. That is just evil. It is insane evil to act like, oh, we're gonna give you all the worst poisonous chemicals in the world for free, and then we're gonna act like we're saving you from your bad health outcomes. The people who do that and know they're doing it, which is most of them, they should go to jail. You should go to jail for that level of this. It's like a homicide almost. You're killing people slowly when you do that, and then pretending like you're their friend. Oh, I'm so good. I'm helping you. Look, aren't I kind? I'm taking other people's money and killing you with it. Uh, aren't I a nice person? No, you're evil. That's just evil. Uh, And by the way, I have grown developed on this issue. When I was a younger man, I was like, no, no one gets help. You either make it or you starve to death. I'm not there anymore. Sometimes some people need help, and by God, I'm not against them getting help. I needed help and I got help. I don't think it should be through the government because I've seen how the government gives help and it is not helpful. Uh, we barely escaped. But absolutely, people need help sometimes, especially when you live in such a corrupt society as we live in today. Uh, I don't know how we expect young people. Well, they don't. I mean, that's the dirty little secret. But how do we even pretend like we want young people to set up households? It's no. I mean, it's one of my daughters has managed to do it, and I don't know how. I'm so proud of this young woman. She's 21, 22. Married. My son-in-law has a good job that he works hard at, and somehow they've managed to buy a house and have two kids, and and I don't know how they did it in this economy, in this environment. When I saw what they were forced to pay for a house, I never wanted to storm anything with a pitchfork and a torch so bad as I did when I saw what they had to pay for a house. That wasn't as good as the house that I had bought just 10 years prior for a literal fraction of what they had to pay. Now, there were some reasons why this place was a little less expensive than others, but even still, it was insane. Uh, so I don't know. It is an evil system. People like this Kimmel woman are just evil, and she's you know what? She's probably too stupid to be evil. Uh, yeah, she's just a moron. But anywho, oh, seven reasons why good women often end up alone. Uh, what else is going on? Families at Florida Air Base ordered to remove Christmas decorations. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, you know what I heard? Uh, uh, DeSantis is talking about doing away with property taxes in Florida. This man is trying to earn my vote in 2028. Uh, if uh, if oh here's this headline: BBC has been captured by minority gender ideology, says left wing writer. Well, no shit. Uh, oh wait, let's see if this has my numbers in it. I want. It's just a video. No, we're not going to watch a video. We're not going to watch a video on video. Uh, I have said for a lot of people have said for a long time. Property taxes are another one of these evil things in this nation, where you're always renting your property from the government, uh, and if we could get property taxes overturned on people's at least their primary residence under a certain value. I'm not so crazy as to think we could get it. I don't I don't even know if it's a good idea for Trump to not pay property taxes on Mar-a-Lago. There's a certain level where I don't know. Maybe I'm a hypocrite, but certainly under a certain valuation, or people are not charged property taxes on their primary residence. Uh, Boy, that would be a good thing. And if DeSantis got that accomplished in Florida, he would catapult to the top of my list for 2028. I don't know where I'm at on Vance. There's the Marine thing, which actually works against him, in my opinion. For me personally, I'll tell you why. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get this light turned back on. One of the things Marines tell themselves and each other is that a Marine could never be president because we're too hardcore, we're too extreme, that people would never vote for us because we're just we're too much. And Vance getting elected vice president was a little bit of in a way, it was almost a disappointment. It's like, wait a minute, what happened? We're supposed to be too hard to win elections. So I'm already like, I don't know where I'm at on Vance. It's like, how does a Marine get elected to a nationwide office? But really, he didn't. Trump did. So I'm not going to hold it against him. But I'm still not 100% sure on the guy. Because I still have, I should admit this to you, men, because you'll all get off my live stream. But I still have some neocon tendencies. And so if you're not up on all the new terminology, neocons are, the Bushes are the classic sort of quintessential neocons. These are people who claim to be conservative, but they're very globalist in their outlook, and they tend to no, they don't tend to. They believe in a very robust foreign involvement for America and American military and American foreign aid, and they believe America should be taking active leadership and interventionist role on the world stage. Uh, I am susceptible to that. I must have put the wrong one in. Damn it, that one's going to turn off too. So I have to be a little careful because I am trying to very much be an isolationist. Uh, but I keep worrying about the outside world imposing itself on us and us having to go, lose hundreds of thousands of young men again. Uh, oh, here's Mark Beasley. Stop property taxes after 62. We've paid our share. Okay, so being a property owner, uh, I think we shouldn't have property taxes on primary residences. All right, you should be able to own your property, and tell everyone to screw themselves and go away. As it is now, property taxes are not onerous for working age people, or at least they're not here in Georgia. But that's not the point. The point is it's immoral. It's not right. The government, you know, the assumption of property taxes is that the government owns your property and they're just letting you have it, and it should be the other way around. You own your property and the government can stay the hell away. Um, so yeah, I don't think people over 62 should be paying uh, property taxes, but I don't think anyone should be paying property taxes on their home or their farm. Vance does have a hell of a sense of humor. Like I said, I just don't know where I'm at on Vance right now. He might be great. Look into that in your look into what, Auntie? Uh, the sense of humor or the 5 grand F? I'm not sure what Auntie wants me to look into. I will be happy to look into it though. Uh, oh, Les Les has had a rough year. He broke his scapula, and it's time for him to take some pain medication. All right, brother. We appreciate you, Les. Thank you for encouraging us to have the stream tonight, because I probably would not have done it otherwise. And of course, I'm enjoying it. This has been a good one so far. Okay, so Anita. Okay, again, Anita is saying that Auntie wants me to look into abolishing property tax, maybe, or is 5 grand? What's 5 grand F? Is that something? You know what? I looked up the New York election results. Let me look up 5 grand F. No, well, 5 grand F doesn't pull up anything. So that must not have been what they were wanting me to look up. Oh, F is expletives. Okay, Anita's property taxes are 5. Okay, I think I see what you're saying, Anita. Yeah, $5,000 for property taxes is insane. That is insane. We need to be running our nation off of consumption taxes and import taxes. I'm sorry, tariffs are a wonderful idea. Tariffs are fan freaking tastic. That is absolutely you can't hide from sales taxes, or it's very hard to hide from sales taxes. It is very hard to cheat sales taxes. You know what? If you work underneath the table, it doesn't matter, because when you go to buy whatever it is, now clearly we also shouldn't be putting taxes on food and diapers, maybe some food. Like we should probably definitely tax sugar and coffee and uh, foie de gras, which apparently is ground up goose liver. I don't know what weirdos are eating ground up goose liver. Well, like, French weirdos, foie de gras, it's French, I understand. These are the same idiots who eat escargot. So, yeah, we could tax some food, but definitely need to be taxing, clothes and electronics. Hell, we should tax internet usage. I swear to God, I charged this battery. I grabbed a charged battery and definitely should be taxing internet. We should be taxing electronics. We should be taxing entertainment. There's the charged battery. All right, I got it figured out now. Sorry about that. We should not be taxing grandma's house that she spent her entire life paying off, and she's going to lose in her old age because what? Because we're really just a medieval society where the lord of the manor allows us our living space. No, it is insane. I keep saying that. I don't know why I fixate on some word, but one of the things our forefathers said at the time of the revolution was that if we let the government tax our, because the British were just trying to impose like a 2% tax is what I've read. It would have it would have come out to about 2% taxes. But but what the our forefathers were saying at the time is if we let them tax us like that, one day they'll tax our property. And here we are, a mere 250 years later, and we have tax repossession sales all the damn time. Uh, it's almost like those old guys back then knew what the hell they were talking about. Uh, all right, Anita said, and hypertax cigars. What? No, no, not cigars. Cigars are a staple. Yes, no, we should tax cigars. We do, and by the way, we do tax cigars. Tobacco gets taxed at a pretty high rate. Uh, so, yeah, it's either yours or you're not, says Mark. 10 Tigers is calling me out for hypocrisy, but I'm okay with taxing cigars. No instant coffee last Saturday at Wally House. Last Saturday looked like Black Friday special crowd. No milk. Hmm. Wally House. So is that Walmart? There was no instant, or is that Waffle House? No instant coffee at Waffle House. I'm not sure what you're saying there. But anyway, yes. So if DeSantis gets this done, DeSantis becomes my front runner for 2028. Oh. Hey, Chris, I live in Georgia. Uh, a still, as of this moment, great state that I am watching with a very cautious eye. We just had our own little setback in this last election. We lost two public service commissioners who changed over from Republican to Democrat, which is actually a pretty big deal. The Public Service Commission is pretty influential, and it can be a launching pad for a further political ambitions. But they have a lot of influence over the price of energy, and the price of energy is, of course, one of the most important parts of our. Yes, I do live in North Georgia, Chris. Uh, One of the most important parts of our economy. Cheap energy is one of the greatest things you could give, especially poor people. If you want to help poor people, you will not subsidize the energy. You will not subsidize the energy. Subsidies are the opposite of kindness. Subsidies are evil. Uh, but cheap energy is one of the kindest things you can, and cheap clean energy. And by clean, I mean real clean, not this fake environmental green clean, but actual clean burning energy that doesn't pollute the environment around them. So, uh, oh, Chris, you've probably been through Gainesville. Then, if you're a travel nurse, that's where a lot of that's kind of a healthcare hub in North Georgia is Gainesville, at least on the eastern half of the state. Uh, uh, Hold on a second, Anti. There is a retracted message. Let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, it says it's retracted and it won't let me. So, Anti, there is a message from you that says message retracted, but I didn't retract it, and I don't have any moderators in the chat now that Les and Sharon are gone. So we didn't do it, and it won't let me. It won't let me bring it up. Uh, let me do this. Let me see if I can make. Oh, here we go. Ante, I'm going to add you as a moderator. Uh, now see if you can post it now that you're a moderator, Anti. Try again. Yeah, when poor people can cook and heat their houses and do all the things that energy allows you to do, it's the greatest thing you can give a poor person is. And when I say clean energy, please don't think I mean green energy. I'm just talking about clean burning, like people who have to cook over dung. Uh, yeah, that's not clean. I heat my house with wood, but if you have to cook over open wood fires, that can be dangerous and smoky and have. Uh, but but things like heating oil and natural gas and that type stuff, propane, that is affordable, diesel. Man, if you want to be okay, let's see what Anti's got to say here. They've already figured out how to fully procreate AI sans sexes, hence the numbing, dumbing down of populaces for the culling. Okay, he had to fully procreate AI sans sexes. Uh, okay, yeah. So Sharon's still here too, and Sharon says she didn't stop any messages. I didn't. I mean, I didn't think you did, Sharon. Usually, it will tell me if the moderator has to do something. This is interesting. Why would YouTube care about this message? And why would they let it through from a moderator but not anyone else? YouTube is so silly. They've already figured out how to fully procreate AI sans sexes, male, female. Are you trying to say they've used AI to figure out how to procreate without sexes? Now, I do know I saw something recently where they used, what'd they do? They took an egg, like the egg from a woman, and they hollowed out all the information inside of it, and they inserted the information from someone else entirely. And then did they fertilize it with the information from another woman? Whatever it was chilling. It was very, very, very scary. Uh, Chris L has started a channel called Overland Travel Nurse. Chris, if you want to post a link to the channel, one of our moderators, either our new one or our existing one, who has been so helpful for so long, will approve that for you. Uh, so yeah, our Sharon or now Anti, if you see a link come through from Chris L, go ahead and approve it. If he's got a channel, we definitely want to promote that, especially if it's just a travel channel. I mean, as long as you're not traveling to Venezuela in order to support the revolution, we you know we got nothing against it. Uh, my mom was a travel nurse for a few years when I was younger, and it was it kept her away from home. Of course, she was able to stay pretty close to home. I think most of the time she was able to technically be a travel nurse, but be close enough to get back home every night. Um, so, anywho, yeah, they're doing. So to me, this the Tower of Babel. Y'all remember this story from the Bible? It's kind of a weird story. Don't always know what to do with it. Uh, it happens, I believe, right after the flood, and people decide that they're gonna build this giant tower so they can ascend to the heavens. And God kind of reacts to this tower in sort of a weird way. He's like, "Whoa, we can't let them build this tower because then what else? What might they try to do?" And you're like, "Well, yeah, but are they really going to be able to build a tower to heaven? I mean, okay, this seems a little silly." But that's where he confuses the languages and everything. But I think the lesson there, the point behind this story is, don't try to through the works of your own hands ascend to heaven, right? Uh, And all this stuff they're doing with genetics and messing with uh the DNA and swapping out. This is trying to ascend to heaven through our technology. Even AI is a little bit and the lesson of the Tower of Babel is that God is not going to let us uh do it, he's not going to allow us to ascend to heaven through the works of our own hands. Uh, and if we try, he's gonna confuse that attempt. And I'm not saying, oh, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen. It's when it happens, it's going to be very, very, very destructive. You know, the confusing of the languages at Babel was a destructive thing. It wasn't a good thing. Uh, and so when I hear about genetic altering and all this stuff, it really it really concerns me. At the same time, I'm all about restoring things to the way they should be. I have no problem if someone loses a hand, giving them a prosthetic hand. Technically that's using technology to I won't say mess with creation, but to there's just this fine line. At what point are we using our God-given talents and knowledge and abilities to 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 put things right, to make them the way they should be, and when do we go past that and where are we where we're playing God? You know, if if we have developed a gene therapy that allows us to treat a terrible genetic disorder that causes great pain and suffering to someone, I'm okay with that. That doesn't insult my worldview at all. If we're using that same technology to try to enhance humans and make them something more than what God made us to be, that's destructive, and I would even go so far as to say evil. And it's a very, very hard line to draw because it's a matter of degrees. It's the same technology, the same therapy that could alter a suffering child's life could also be used to try to make some sort of chimera abomination affront to nature and nature's God. uh, Musk's Neuralink thing, come on, I gotta stop buying cheap matches. Crazy. Strike anywhere matches can't be that dangerous. Neuralink could treat a really real disease and fix real problems. Or, it could be an attempt for us to hijack life in co-op role that only God should fill. It's a very, very difficult moral conundrum, and we keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper into these moral conundrums, uh, and it really worries me. Wealth is the greatest because all of these things are allowed by wealth, right? I mean, if we weren't, you know, so incredibly, stupidly rich, uh, we wouldn't have the ability to attempt these things. Wealth is the greatest test of faith in the world. If you can be trusted with wealth, truly trusted with wealth, the way God would want you to, then you really have kind of ascended to close to the pinnacle of spiritual maturity. There's a reason why Christ said that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than a rich man to get into heaven, because wealth is really the greatest temptation there is. When you're poor and you don't know how the hell this is all gonna. when you have no choice but to have faith, you end up having faith, you know? It I don't know exactly how much cocaine and strippers it would take to kill me, but I know I can't afford it, right? It doesn't matter how much it would actually take because I can't afford it. I can't afford any cocaine or any strippers. So, there's this whole these whole categories of temptation just aren't relevant to me because I don't have access to them. Who knows? I might absolutely kill myself with strippers and cocaine if I had the ability. I just don't have the ability. I'm protected from that. So so poverty can really be a palladium from some of these horrific temptations that wealthy people face. If I had Elon Musk's wealth, would I be out there hiring women to get in vitro fertilized with my seed in an attempt to build a master race? There's a chance. I see the appeal, you know? Uh, okay, Mark says he thinks AI has its greasy fingers in a lot more things than we know. I don't disagree. So far, what I've seen AI do is crap. AI has almost destroyed the internet. And all this, he's anti got a brass jet lighter earlier today with a cigar cutter. Oh yeah, yeah, those are pretty cool. Uh, there's all these AI videos out now where the AI just like makes these scripts and then reads the scripts, and they're awful. I mean, they're terrible. They're not entertaining videos. I like history a lot. Chris says that's his first video. Oops. I like history a lot, and they're really taking over the history videos where these, but the scripts are not. They're bad. Like you can tell it reads like a middle school report. You know, it's like you told a middle schooler, you sent them to the library and told them to look at the encyclopedia and write a report on World War II. And it's not interesting stuff, and they're not good videos. I am sure there is a way to do good videos with it. I don't doubt that at all if you use it as a tool. But I don't think the AI can write your videos, read your videos, populate all the graphics for the videos, and all you have to do is tell AI, "Hey, give me a video about the P-51 Mustang." You know, that video isn't going to stand out at all from all the other AI generated videos about the P-51 Mustang. Uh, there's some really good World War II history channels out there. Of course, it's easy to be good when the topic's so interesting. But I mean, these guys will read. One of them is called Rex's Hangar, and there's another one that's called like Greg's Airplanes, and Not a Pound for Air to Ground. And these guys, they go find old pilots' manuals and aircraft maintenance manuals, and Greg's Airplanes is amazing with this information he'll pull out and compare all the different versions of the airplane against all the different versions of the other airplane. You'll ask, is the P-51 Mustang better than the FW-190 Focke-Wulf? And he'll be like, well, that depends. Which version of the P-51 Mustang against which version of the FW-190 at what altitude, and all this stuff. And it'll be a fascinating good video. And AI is not going to be able, at least for a while, to generate that kind of information because the sources these guys are reading aren't digitized. They're now, I'm sure at one point they will be, and who knows what this looks like in 10 years, 15 years. Uh, but right now the AI videos are not good. They're not entertaining. At least not the ones that I can identify. Maybe there's some out there that I can't tell what they are, or maybe I'm just not watching the categories of video where the AI is good. But all the ones I'm seeing right now look like corporate safety videos. They really do. That's really what they feel like. It's like a corporate safety video or a PR video, you know, for internal use by, some company somewhere talking about the fall lineup of, you know, widgets for the sales force to be able to. And God forbid, if you just want to get a phone number for a plumber, that's not possible anymore. Go Google, plumbers near me and see what comes up. It's a bunch of AI generated lists of what to look for in a plumber. Well, I know what to look for in a plumber. A plumber. I want a guy with a plunger and a pipe wrench. Just give me a damn phone number from someone who will answer the frickin' phone and and stop giving me all this horse shit. Uh, yeah, Mark, I don't doubt it. I know that's the way this stuff always starts, and it gets better and it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. I just wonder how competitive it's going to be because they're talking about all of the energy it's going to need and all of the data centers and all of the computers, and it just sounds like a mess. Uh, but the technology has always gotten better. It has always taken over more and more and more and more. There is no reason to think that the AI won't continue on that same trajectory. And at some point, we're all going to have to just quit. My phone turned something on recently where I've had Siri turned off and I won't let her do it. Somehow Siri's turned on my phone now, and I've got to go figure out how to turn her back off. Uh, and they're like, uh, making recommendations about with information. And I know they've collected the information for years. I'm not so stupid to think that they haven't been tracking me. But just recently, now they've started to try to use the information on me. Uh, and it insults me. I was in McDonald's last weekend buying ice cream for my kids and some of my grandkids, and my phone had something on McDonald's for it while I was sitting in the McDonald's. So like it knew where I was, and it was yep, that's it. Greg's Airplanes and Automobiles. Really cool channel. Really technical, really dense, really detailed. Uh, if you're not into that type of stuff, you might not be interested in it. But if you like airplanes, if you like World War II, fascinating stuff on that channel. Fascinating stuff. Uh, yeah, Chris, they're putting all their eggs in this AI basket, and there's no reason to assume they won't succeed because they've succeeded at everything else so far. But man, at some point, you feel like they're just going to complicate things so much, and they're going to make everything so expensive and so complex and so intertwined that it's just going to collapse in on its own weight. Mm. Talk about sailboats to your wife for 3 days and look at your phone. If I talk about sailboats to my wife for 3 days, I'd have to go look for my wife. She'd be hiding from me. Poor woman. She already has to listen to whatever obsession I'm deep down the rabbit hole on. Right now, it's Catholic polemics. I'm deep, deep, deep down in Catholic theology for some reason. Never been Catholic. There's no chance I ever will be Catholic. But I'm just fascinated right now with Catholicism. And the poor woman, she's having to listen to the videos while I've got them playing in the background, and then she's got to listen to me talk about the videos after I watch the videos, and uh, it's it's pretty funny. But yeah, the poor woman. If I started talking about sailboats, she might be a bridge too far. She'd be like, "Do you want a boat? Do you have any you know vision of us ever having a sailboat? Why are we talking about sailboat? Why do I talk about any of this stuff, baby? I love you, but none of this stuff is ever going to be real. Why do I obsess about the French Revolution? Is it relevant? No, but I absolutely fixate on it. Um, Although, if by some chance I find myself in my late 70s, early 80s, single, I might think about buying a sailboat and trying to go to Antarctica. I think that would be a great way to die. You know, kind of sail off into the sunset on some adventure. No one ever knows what really happened to you. It's always a mystery. Yeah, Grandpa just sailed away one day, and he might still be out there somewhere on a desert island, surrounded by hula girls, or, really what happened is, yeah, you got caught in a storm and you drowned in the, you know, South Atlantic, but they don't know. There's allegedly this swamp in North Carolina, right below Chesapeake, uh, the Chesapeake Bay, where people abandon sailboats they can't keep anymore because they can't really sell them, and they're having to pay insurance and docking fees. And you're pelagic in Catholic polemics. What is pelagic? I've heard this word before. Let's look up pelagic. There's Pelagianism, but I can't remember what that is either. There's pelagic clothing. Okay, pelagic definition. Pelagic, relating to the open, technical. I don't understand this. Pelagic, it's an adjective. Oh, relating to the open sea. The Kittiwakes returned from their pelagic winter wanderings. What a terrible sentence. Relating to or inhabiting the upper layers of the open sea, often contrasted with demersal. There are very few pelagic fish to be seen. A bird inhabiting the open sea and returning to shore only to breed. Huh. Pelagic. What is Pelagianism then? There's Pelagianism. No. Oh, okay. I think this is what you were talking about, Pelagian or Pelagianism, relating to or characteristic of the theological doctrine of Pelagius, especially in denying the doctrines of original sin and predestination and defending innate human goodness and free will. I am the opposite of Pelagian because I believe strongly in original sin. Although I do deny predestination, I deny innate human goodness, but I defend free will. So I guess we're Pelagian, and I agree is that we both deny predestination and we both believe in free will. I have not read the book of Enoch. I keep meaning to, but I just have never gotten around to it. I have enough problems with the 66 books before I start adding. Of course, if my Catholic polemics were having an impact on me, I would tell you there are 72 books, not 66. Because Catholics have 6 extra books, or 7 extra. I think it's 6 extra books. They have 6 extra books in their Bible that most Protestants do not accept as being canonical, even if we believe they may have some historical and spiritual value. We don't believe they were inspired books, just that they're ancient books. So we would look at the so-called Apocrypha or deuterocanonical books the same way we might think of, say, Aristotle or Plato or, Caesar's, whatever they are, as having value, but and possibly even spiritual value, but not, infallible spiritual truth. Yeah, Chris says the Enoch is very interesting and that I should read it. Okay, so Anti says the pelagic zone consists of the water column of the open ocean. and can be further divided into regions by depth. Oh, Anti was making a joke and I missed it. And it was a really good literate joke, too. Wow, well done, sir. I was saying that you're in deep and large oceans studying it. No, no, you did good. I just didn't get it. I was pelagic in my Catholic polemics. You are correct. That was good, especially when you add in the Pelagius and Pelagianism to the whole thing. Because I would imagine Pelagius is probably Catholic sympathetic, because Catholics deny predestination, and I think they can be a little uh, loosey goosey on original sin too sometimes. But I think they are good on free will. Very good on free will because Roman Catholics will, they would believe in a. This is one of the things I've been in real deep on here lately. There's this thing called sola fide that gets ascribed to Protestants a lot. Sola fide is Latin for faith alone, uh, and it's one of the doctrines allegedly Roman Catholics and Protestants disagree on heavily. But when you actually look at what Protestants say about the issue and what Catholics say about the issue, they're actually completely aligned. It's just a matter, like most problems in life are ones of vocabulary. And once you get the vocabulary sorted out, most problems resolve themselves. And on sola fide, uh, Catholics and Protestants actually don't disagree, but they keep beating each other over the head with this concept. And neither one of them seem to be understanding what the other one says when they say, when the Protestants say sola fide and when the Catholics say, I can't remember what the opposite is, uh, but it ends up being a non issue when you actually look at the definitions. When Protestants say by faith alone, they mean you come into salvation by faith alone, but then there are still works that are required for you to maintain your status inside that salvation. This would be this would be the dominant Protestant view. I'm not saying all Protestants believe this. Uh, and Catholics actually say the exact same thing, that you come to salvation by faith, but Catholics look at salvation as this ongoing thing that's never complete, uh, and Protestants will then try to beat them around about the head and say that they have a works based salvation. But what Protestants believe in, and they say it different ways, but they would say salvation is a one time event. But then there is this further process of justification where you do have to perform good works to maintain yourself inside that salvation. It's the exact same thing. And I am by no means saying that Catholics and Protestants are interchangeable and there's no theological differences between the two groups. But on this one issue, there's no difference. It's a matter of vocabulary when it comes to sola fide. What part of the end times, according to the Bible, do you think we are in? I am almost 100% agnostic on end times uh, prophecy. I do not believe the truth of the end times has been revealed yet. I think the meanings of those words. Uh, I have a lot of respect for the Ethiopian church. A lot of respect for the Ethiopian church. But I do not believe the meaning of the revelation has been made clear yet. And I think it is very, very, I won't say dangerous, but what's the right word? I don't think it's possible for us to know at this point how that all is going to shake out. What I always point to is John the Baptist. John the Baptist was prophesied And Christ even, I just read this today actually in something that I was looking up. You know, it was prophesied that Elijah was going to come back prior to the Messiah and prepare the way for the Messiah. And Christ even says, well, he did. Elijah did come back prior to it was John the Baptist. So, you know, Elijah was prophesied to return, and Christ affirms that that happened, but it happened. So these prophecies get fulfilled. They're true prophecies. I believe in prophecy, but I do not believe that they get fulfilled the way that is most obvious to us every time. We also can look at Jonah. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and prophesy to them that they would be destroyed. Well, Nineveh was destroyed 150 years later. uh, so it's just very, very uh, unsure what the fulfillment of those prophecies are going to look like when it, yeah, Book of Daniel is another one, when it comes about, right? Uh, and that kind of makes sense, that preserves the miraculousness of the prophecy. If everyone knows what it's supposed to look like when it happens, then you can fake it when the time comes. Uh, but if it's this thing where you look at it in retrospect and say, "Oh my God, that was it," and none of us saw it coming, that truly is miraculous if you think about it. Uh, that being said, at some point, the book will be revealed, the meaning will be revealed, and we don't know for sure that that meaning hasn't been revealed yet. There's some of the theories that are out there right now could be true. Like it could be what it's going to look like. I'm not convinced that that has happened yet. That the book has been revealed. Uh, and the other thing about these prophecies is that they have multiple fulfillments. So, like, there's this theory that the book of Revelation was actually about Nero. Uh, and absolutely for the people who were alive during the time of Nero, they could have looked at the Revelation and found great comfort and encouragement and taken a lot of sustenance for their faith out of the book of Revelation and how Nero seems to fit some of that, while it still retains a future fulfillment that hasn't come around yet, and also has a sort of spiritual fulfillment for those of us who read it between now and its ultimate physical fulfillment. So it's not even restricted to just one level of fulfillment. It can absolutely have a fulfillment for the people who hear it, for those of us who interact with it between now and then its ultimate literal fulfillment when the time comes. Uh, uh, but I very much grew up in a pre-trib, what is it? A pre-trib, premillennial uh, environment. So what that meant is that we believed in a 7 year tribulation that would be cut short in the middle, so a 3.5 year tribulation, then a rapture at the 3.5 year mark, where the vast majority of the living believers would be brought out of the world. Then there would be 3.5 more years of a debilitating tribulation, and then all the saints would return with Christ to fight at the battle of Armageddon, and then there would be the 1,000 year reign of Christ. So that's the tradition I was raised in, and I believe that's called mid-trib premillennialism. I am no longer at all dogmatic about end times theology, though. The one thing I'm fairly sure of is that if any of it's for sure false, and I'm not even 100% sure about this, but the thing I think at least likely is some kind of pre-tribulation rapture. Uh, I am a little unsure that there even is one rapture event talked about in the Revelation, and I'm not even sure how. long of a time period the revelation is recounting. There's things in the book of Revelation that lead me to think that it might be a recounting of all of recorded history, or at least all of Israel's history. Romans 12, when it's talking about the woman with the crown, with the 12 jewels on her head, like a recounting of Israel to me, can kind of from Israel's, you know, I, just because I'm so deep in Catholicism right now. Uh, Catholics will tell you that the woman in Romans 12 is the Virgin Mary. I look at it and think that this looks like a representation of Israel to me, not necessarily the Virgin Mary. And if it is Israel, it could be a relation of the totality of Israel's existence from the enslavement in Egypt all the way up through the end times, uh, which would really color a lot of the suppositions about what's going on in the book. I honestly don't know. That's kind of where I come down on it all. I don't know. I do know if you read the Revelation, the rapture is not clear to me. There's like three different places where there could be a rapture. Uh, I'm not entirely sure that any of it is all that knowable at this point. And I'm sorry I keep relighting this cigar, but I keep not smoking it. I keep letting it go out. Uh, okay, so the abomination of desolations is a very interesting thing, but it's happened before. There was an abomination of desolation, I would say, and I think a lot of people would agree that the abomination of desolations happens more than once, and like it happened in the Maccabean period, where uh, I have a little bit of a unique take on this. So a lot of people will say the abomination of desolations happened. I don't remember what year it was, but it was in between Malachi and Matthew. So in between the Old Testament and the New Testament, where the I believe it was the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt invades Israel and takes it over, and they actually go into the temple, and they go into the Holy of Holies, and they set up a statue of Zeus, and they sacrifice a pig in the Holy of Holies. Uh, yeah, and I think it happened again when Babylon destroyed Jerusalem, Chris. Yeah, Mark, that's how I know when I've done smoking the cigar is when I start hearing my mustache hair singe. Now, I don't think that statue and that pig being slaughtered in the temple was an abomination of desolations, because that was done by pagans, and the Jews did everything they could to resist it. They were slaughtered by the thousands trying to keep that from happening. Uh, so I don't think pagans being pagans is an abomination of desolations. However, just prior to that, like within a few, like a year or two prior to the king who did that was named Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. Uh, the Jews had altered the high priesthood from being the descendants of Aaron, and they had started appointing high priests who were political appointees that weren't of the Aaronic priesthood. And I think that was the actual abomination of desolations. And then what Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth did was just a physical manifestation of the actual abomination of desolations, which was, the Jews throwing over God's ordained worship and appointing a political high priest. Um, but that is also raging speculation on my point. I just don't think God would hold the Jews responsible for something pagans did to them that they resisted to the best of their ability and at great cost to themselves. Uh, to me. But the revelations to me meant more about the distant future, like our time. So the revelation of John, yeah, I think there is definitely a future fulfillment that is going to end up looking very literal to what was in the text. So when the revelation of John is ultimately fulfilled, yes, I think it is going to be around, the end times of this temporal world and the second coming of Christ, and the end of time, and the transition into a state where we all exist in some sort of perfected realm with our creator. So in as far as that goes, I believe there is a literal future end times fulfillment of the book of Revelation. I don't believe that it was, you there's a word for it where people believe that it doesn't have a future fulfillment, that it only had a uh, a contemporary meaning for the people at the time of its writing. That doesn't make sense to me. But and it is my belief that there's actually not a set time for the end. I actually believe God would allow us to go on and populate the stars. I absolutely believe He created this whole universe for us to fill it with people and to experience this marvel of His creation. Uh, but He's just not going to pull our fat out of the fire anymore. If we let things get so bad again that He has to intervene, then He's pulling the plug on the whole damn thing. Uh, uh, and that's why I think, when we see the apostles talking about living in the end times, that's what I mean. This is the final age. We're in the final age, and I believe very much that it is up to us, whether or not this thing ends or not. God always created this to not have an end. Uh, he was going to allow it to go on. That's what, the Garden of Eden was. I'm not going to say eternal, but perpetual. It wasn't designed to end. He's just not going to sustain it anymore at this point. He's given us all of the chances we get. Now it's up to us to keep it going, or if not, pull the plug, everybody out of the pool. We're done. Uh, I don't know if I was contrived is the right word, but anywho. All right. Well, we have gone around the world this evening, haven't we, gentlemen? Uh, Okay, time is irrelevant. The finality has already happened. I said finality. You say final has already happened. Time is an illusion to us. I would go a step farther and say time doesn't exist. Time, time is a concept we. Uh, no, it was a great conversation, Chris. I'm glad we did it. Time is a concept that we have come up with in order to explain the the decay that we experience, because decay is unnatural. Uh, decay is the result of sin. Sin is unnatural. Time is what we have come up with to try to explain to ourselves that decay that in our heart of hearts we know shouldn't happen. Uh, that's my take on it. I can't base that totally subjective. I can't. Yeah, entropy. Uh, that's that would be another way to say it. Yeah, that time is just a way for us to categorize entropy. Yeah, that's why I think Einstein is completely full of shit. Uh, the theory of relativity, the tiny little bit of the theory of relativity that I think I've understand is that time is relative, and I say bullshit. Time is fake. Time doesn't exist. Uh, right. If there is an eternity at all, then what is time? Time is this. It's just what we can observe from our incredibly finite observation of the infinite. Um, It really is an unnatural event in the infinity of eternity, the infinity of eternity. That doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. But how could anything we say about infinity and eternity not be stupid? Because we can't comprehend it. We just can't even wrap our minds around it. Um, all right, gentlemen, this has been a good one. My cigar is about done. I'm about to start singeing the mustache hairs. I got a big day tomorrow. My son is having his engagement party, and then tomorrow night after the engagement party, he's shipping off to MEPS. He's going to go do his in processing for the Corps, joining the reserves, which I think is a good decision for him. He's 21. He's a little bit older. If he joined at 18, he would be looking at getting out right now. Yeah, hair burning time to go. Yeah, when the mustache hair starts singeing, I know it's a. But at 21, he's about to get married. He's trying to start a career. The reserves are going to let him get a little adventure under his belt. They're going to knock some of the young man foolishness out of oh, your daughter's in the Navy. Well, tell her we said thank you for her service, Chris. Uh, it's going to help him earn a little bit of the respect he desires so much. He's so my children are all in groupings. So I had 5 children from my first marriage, and he's the youngest of the 5 children from my first marriage. So this is going to let him kind of break out of that mold a little bit and change how his older siblings maybe look at him a little bit because they treat him a little bit like the baby. And he's not. He's a good, solid young man who works his 40 and tries to fulfill his duties as a man. And I think this is going to be good for him all the way around, and good for the family. Continue the family legacy. He's going to be the 8th generation to serve. The We can go back to 1760 for sure. We know one of our ancestors served. His son served. Uh, we're not 100% sure about his son, but his son served. His son served. His son served. His son served. I served. Now my son served. Uh, Mike, best wishes from Montana. Thank you. Stay warm in the south in the next few days. Yes, Sharon, it's going to get cold out here for a couple days. Unseasonably cold. Our high Monday, I think, is going to be 43, which is unheard of for us at this time of year. And the low is going to be in the 20s. Yeah, Mark, I will. My father did that for me when I went. My father's a good man. I'm not complaining about my father, but he's not like this overly affectionate, fall on my neck and, call me turtle dove or stuff. But when I left for boot camp, he shook my hand, gave me a hug, told me he was proud of me. It was a big deal. I tend to be a little more expressive than my father is. He's still around. Just because it's my personality, I have a little bit more of a uh, golden retriever, playful, I love you thing going on. So I got to try to find something that seems authentic to the young man, because he's kind of used to me, being affectionate. So I am hopeful. I don't know if will be possible or not, but I'm hoping that I get to go and give him his Eagle Globe and Anchor when he gets that at boot camp. Uh, Thank you, Chris. Good night, sir. That that I'm really hopeful to get to do. I don't know if they allow that or not. I think when I went through boot camp, they did, but that was 30 years ago. So who the hell knows what the rules are now? But obviously, I'll go to his graduation, and even though I have to sell silver, I might try to take the whole family if I can. But I don't even know. Like I know there used to be limited space. So if I tried to roll up with all, 16 of his siblings and his nieces and his nephews and his grandparents and everything, we could easily have 50 people there. Uh, my brothers all served. One of our big brags in the family is there's 4 boys and we served in all four branches. So I'm the oldest brother in the Corps. Then the next brother was in the Army, and then the next brother was Air Force, and the baby boy was Navy. Uh, yeah, partridge in a pear tree, turtle dove. So yeah, we really could roll up with a lot of people. And I've got grandchildren now, and his girlfriend's family is you know he's kind of close with them. And oh my God, 10 tigers. That's what we should have talked about. Oh, dude, you are correct. What a heartbreaking moment for that. Did you guys see this? Oh my Lord. That's what we should have talked about. So, there's not a whole lot of World War II guys left anymore. Uh, to have served in World War II now, you would have had to have been born in, the 20s. I think 1922 would have been, well, yeah, you all saw it. So if you served, let's say you had to get into the war by 44. So if you were 18 and 44, you would have been, uh, well, you'd have been 1930, so 1926. You would have had to have been born in 1926 to really catch the tail end of World War II. You're 100 years old now, 99 years old. So there's not a lot of these guys left. I tell you, one of the cooler things I've ever experienced is that I got to meet a World War One veteran one time. He was 107 years old. His name was Roy Davis, and he obviously at 107 he wasn't dancing any jigs, but he was still mentally there. You could talk to him, and he was alert and sharp, and he had his wits about him, but he wasn't in a wheelchair. But there's not a lot of these guys left, and this was a British gentleman who served in the Navy in an anti-submarine unit. And interesting, his dad had served in World War One, and when he went to join, his dad made him swear not to join the infantry because the dad had served in the infantry in World War One, and he was just adamant he didn't want his son to experience that because infantry in World War One was about the worst experience, and the you know I don't think it gets much worse than that. But this guy served in the Navy in an anti-submarine capacity, which is still, especially in the 40s, it's tough service in the North Atlantic, uh, and dangerous service too. And this guy was saying that it wasn't worth it, that they lost their freedoms anyway, that things were worse off now than they would have been then if they'd lost the war. And what a heartbreaking thing for this man to say, whose own father sacrificed so much and was so scarred and wounded, and then he goes and volunteers in some frontline service and risks it all and probably saw some pretty horrific things himself. And then for him now at the end of his life to be looking back and saying it wasn't worth it. That what the end result of it all was no better than if we just hadn't have done it. Uh, I thought that was just absolutely heartbreaking, and one of the worst indictments of our modern world that I have. That's as bad. That's as bad of indictment as there can be. When a man like that says, "No, I'm sorry, it wasn't worth it." Clearly, a selfish man. I'm sorry, a selfless man. Please let me be very clear. What I meant to say was a clearly selfless man who believed in his nation and believed in the fight because he volunteered, uh, and he volunteered for dangerous frontline duties, uh, and now he doesn't think it was worth it. Uh, it's just heartbreaking. Oh man, let's see if we can end on something positive because that's a downer note to be ending on. My grandfather served in World War One. I saw his separation papers. It said he was not rated for riding a horse. That is awesome. My great grandfather served in World War One. He was a little bit older. He was a doughboy. Left West Texas, way out in the middle of nowhere, West Texas too. I mean, way out there. Little town called Sanko, and he was 26. Hey, Anarchy Television's here. Was a little bit older, and leaves West Texas in 1917, goes to France. I don't know the details of his service. I know he was in the army. I know he was a doughboy. I don't know what all he did or what all he saw, but uh, he was in the infantry, and so I'm sure he saw the real deal. Uh, so came back, was a big hero in his little West Texas town, and then his son served in World War II in the Navy. Had 5 ships blown out from underneath him. Had five ships sank underneath him. And he went home and he was a big hero, but he was destroyed. He was a wreck of a man after that, and died very young uh, from some pretty self-destructive behavior, unfortunately. But we're supposed to be ending on a high note. Yeah, 10 Tigers left Texas and went to France. His grandfather. That had to be a just an absolutely mind blowing experience for a young man from way out in the West Texas. I think it was the high desert. I don't remember. I know it was the desert. Uh, and what was the name of that county? I want to say it was Tom Green County, but maybe it was the Coke County. I think it was Coke County, Texas. Richard. It was named for a Texas politician named Richard Koch. Coke County, Texas, I think is where he was from. And to leave Coke County, Texas, travel to France. So he went all the way across the United States back east. I don't know where he did his boot camp or any of that, or even how they did that. Maybe they didn't even have boot camp back then. I don't know. I know the Marine Corps did, but I don't know if the Army did. Uh, travel across the Atlantic, go to France, and I think he ended up in Germany, if I remember correctly. Uh, and then come all the way back home to West Texas, and he was a sheep farmer in West Texas. And then they ended up losing the farm. They had like a small ranch. It was like 300 or 400 acres, which I guess in Texas at the time was a pretty small ranch. He had 5 sons, and 4 of his 5 sons all fought in World War. No, maybe 3 of his sons fought in World War II. One of them fought in Korea, and the 5th one served during Vietnam, but they didn't serve in country. Uh, but because all the boys left the farm to go to the war, uh, yeah, it would have been a pretty good movie. But they ended up losing the ranch because they couldn't work it because all the ranch hands went to the war. And so I never met my grandfather. My grandfather was the oldest boy of the 5 brothers. I never met him. He died long before I was born. And I never met the next 2 brothers, but I met the youngest 2 brothers. Now, I met 2 of the brothers. I met the youngest brother, and maybe I met the second brother. Uh, and the youngest brother was always a little bitter about it because his brother he was significantly younger than the first 4. It was like a 10-year gap or something between him and the next one. He's still alive. He's in poor health, but he's still in Texas. He had kind of a cool life too. I actually had a very cool life. I would actually tell you about his life, but his life was kind of so cool that you would be able to look it up and see who he is, and then you would have all the access to who I am and who my family is. And not that I don't trust any of you with it, but OPSEC, it's just OPSEC. But he actually you can look him up. Uh, he's out there. Uh, but he was bitter about having lost that family ranch because his other brothers got called away to the war, and then after the war, they didn't really come home. Uh, my grandfather ended up going to Chicago for about a decade, and then he went back to Texas, but it was too late. The ranch was gone, and the other three brothers of the five never did go back. They stayed gone. Anywho, you would think there'd be a Coke County, Florida. Haha, yeah, in Miami. Miami's in Coke County, Florida. All right, that is maybe the positive note we want to end on. A good cocaine joke. You can't go wrong with cocaine jokes. All right, man. We appreciate you. I don't know if we'll be able to get a live stream in next week. I would like to be more regular on these, especially when they're as good as this one was. This one was amazing. The last one I did was not good on my part. I didn't feel like I was very interesting. That Landon has been lurking in the background this whole time. Uh, but we appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you for being interesting and making this such a worthwhile stream. You guys always make them good. And like I said, keep my second son in your prayers. Buck 99 is still with us. Buck 99 was the first one to chime in on the chat this evening, and he is still here. Thank you, Buck. Yeah, keep my youngest son. His first name is Sam. Well, he goes by Sam. His first name is actually Isaiah, but he goes by Sam. Keep him in your prayers, both as he kind of starts this journey of marriage, and then as he starts his career in the Marine Corps Reserves. And yes, thank you, Mark. Don't forget the thumbs up. Men, we appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good